Welcome to Talkin Jets. My name's Ryan, and I'll be your pilot tonight. Boys and girls, I'm so glad to be alongside my co-pilot, Mr. Dom C. How you doing tonight?
Good, Ryan. It feels like it's been too long, man. I got crazy spring stuff going on with the kids. So plus it's a little downtime in football season, so it's a lot this feels secondary, which it shouldn't. So
yeah, I mean, dude, I like coming on Talkin Jets. I have not put a video out on my own channel since I think probably the day before the schedule release, because it was like O'Leary's like tweet that went out, and I was like, boom, okay, I'm gonna make a video about that, and then I haven't touched like the computer since. I've only been over here doing it, but it's nice. I like the off season. Give yourself a little bit of a mental reset, kind of before the grind of the football season and whatnot. Boys and girls, as you hop in here, make sure you hit that like button. We're gonna discuss a few things throughout the night. We'll be talking to you guys throughout the chat, get some thoughts on some of your feelings on the undrafted free agents. We're going to do a little bit of film review. I think we're going to discuss some of the prospects of the undrafted free agents that we brought in, as opposed to like pulling up some film and stuff, because we're lazy and we didn't do a whole lot of.
Well, you know what? I got some, but I didn't. It's not cut, and I don't want to play, especially some of the Watt stuff. I don't want to play it straight through because, gotta be honest with you, there's a lot of it that's just like blah.
Okay,
not very exciting.
We got a long summer. We could go into that, but you've watched some of the tapes, so we can talk about that. Talk to you guys in the chat. Have a good old time for about an hour or so. I completely forgot about this show until Dom texted me this morning and said, like, yeah, I think we should do some of this. And I was like, whoa, it's Memorial Day weekend. I just got back from the shore, and I would have totally forgot to come on tonight. Like, I was just not in the mindset of like streaming and whatnot. Dom, do you do anything fun for Memorial Weekend?
Nope. Baseball for my boys pretty much all weekend long. I did go out to dinner tonight, though. Got to see some family and stuff like that. Nothing crazy. Little Irish pub near my house.
What'd you get?
Actually, I got like some Guinness beef stew kind of deal.
Green Bean would love you.
Yeah, it was good. It was so much food though. So much food though. Yeah, Thatcher McGee's. Have you ever eaten there?
No, I've heard of Thatcher's though. They did a golf outing up at where I work.
Yeah.
From what I've heard, it's good. Becca and I are going to, so our wedding anniversary is technically tomorrow. We're going to actually celebrate it on Thursday, but we're going to go to a place out in 𝐒𝐵𝐺𝐻, Stonewater. Really nice. Normally a really nice like dinner place. We're going to try and do it for lunch because the kids are in daycare at the time. So like, try to get some little bit cheaper lunch food. Balling on a budget.
Nice out there, man. Yeah.
It's a good time out there.
Sure is.
Got a whole bunch of people in the chat right now. Got Dakota. What's good, dude? Nick, Early Gang, Zachary says Eric Watts can be a gem. Dom, you want to throw any knowledge on us on Eric Watts?
Yeah. So I'm going to leave my Eric Watts assessment as there's still a lot to be determined. Okay. He definitely has some, he shows some good pop. He checks all the boxes, like, height, weight, size, physicality, all that stuff. He's tall, he's big, and I think that works to his detriment. He plays very tall, stands straight up way too much. Like that's just, that might get that gets him by at UConn. It's not going to get him by in the NFL. He just got to learn to play with better leverage. I mean, I know this is kind of a lazy take, but I could see him, kind of following the footsteps of JFM. Like, I could see him being a solid run defender on the edge. I don't know if he has much in terms of a pass rush arsenal yet, but, is strong and can get there with power. He does good, does a lot of good work with the games up front, kind of picking and on those twists and those stunts and so on and so forth. Takes up a lot of space. Like I said, I just think he's, that big and strong and physical. Not much more than that. Maybe, in the developments of like a young, rookie or Michael Clemens, how he came in and he plays with his ass on fire 100% of the time. That's what you get in Watts. He's got a motor that doesn't stop. technically, like he understands the game of football. He understands what, he knows how to read his blocks. He knows how to stack and shed very well. I just don't know if he's much more than an early down run defender right now. Probably a guy. If you look at the pecking order, Ryan, and I don't know if you saw it on Twitter, I'll see if I can find it. I think Zach Rosenblatt posted like all the Jets undrafted free agents in order of what they got in guarantees, and Watts was up there first. Watts got over 220,000 guarantees. So that, if you follow the money, he's going to probably have a chance to make the team. I don't know what kind of role he's really going to play. I don't know if it's going to be anything, that's going to impact the defense year one at least. But yeah, that's what I got from Watts. Like I said, I like the physicality. I like the motor. There's just not much there. It's a big hulking, strong ball of clay that really needs to be kind of molded.
That sort of stuff gets me excited, because if there's one area that I trust this regime to kind of like have on lock, or at least be able to develop people, it's on that defensive line. And if they're giving him a good amount of guaranteed money, they see the little block of clay that he could be, and mold him into maybe our next JFM. So, that'd be freaking sweet to see.
Yeah. So him and Braden McGregor, the other edge that they signed undrafted free agent from Michigan. They both got some hefty guaranteed money. So I could see them both sticking around. And it's funny because they're kind of similar, they're kind of similar in what they do. Like I said, they both play. What I do like about them is, you don't have to worry about effort for either of these guys. Like, they're playing through the whistle. They're playing, they got that motor. You could tell they love to play football. I think that Watts has a little bit, he's a little bit more, got a little bit of the advantage because he's got a bigger frame. He's got a strong, he's stronger. Both of them aren't going to set the world on fire in regards to their athletic prowess. But I think that McGregor right now has some, has more length in terms of arm length, and can probably affect the passer more in a pass rush set. Not like get off like we got in Bryce Huff, but he's more of a well-rounded pass rusher right now. Watts is probably more just bull rush tendencies. He does a lot of good things with the stunts, like I talked about. But I don't know if you're going to line him up on the end and just kind of pin his ears back and get at the quarterback. That's just not his game. Yeah.
Mark comes in and says, super excited to watch this video. Great job as always, guys. Mark, we like you. Glad you're in.
My friend, Mark.
Mitt Flair saying a woo. Infrared says JETS, Jets. Hit that like button, boys, girls. We got some Jet Up Banana Land from R&R. Love seeing the banana in the logo with the little, what do we call is it a jet, you think, in the background? That the swoosh kind of like.
Yeah, that's a jet.
You would call it the jet. I've heard people call it the wing and like stuff like that. I always thought of it as a jet. NY Jets, what's up, Jet Nation? Got Dano in there. Snowball. Ryder. What's up, guys? How was your holiday weekend? Good. I was down the shore. I was down in LBI. Got to go see the mom and brother, his girlfriend, hang out on the beach. First time taking the kids to the beach. Shay was down there when she was like 2 months old. So it was fun watching them like kind of pick up sand and like eat sand for the first time, because they're trying to eat crackers and chips and stuff. And they're just like, this is disgusting. And she's got sand all in her hand, and she's like trying to wipe her tongue with the sand on her hand. I'm like, you'll figure it out eventually. It was fun though. It was a good time. I didn't get too cooked. I tried to apply enough sunblock, and I had a bucket hat on, my UV shirt, because I'm not trying to not showing off the guns to anyone down there. I just try to not burn.
Yeah, the Irish blood in you that'll get you. Oh yeah,
time. Dude, I cook.
So I got to ask a question, Ryan. I don't know what the chat's talking about. Something about Green Bay. Who was in Green Bay that they're moving on from him? Look at huge erection.
He says he said something like everyone is out if he doesn't ball out like what happened in Green Bay.
Is he talking about Rodgers?
I think he's talking about Rodgers, yeah, because Rodgers knows. I think he said something during OTAs last week, maybe, where it's like we need to win. Like we all need to win. Like I'm not going to be back next year if we don't win. It's a solid Douglas Rodgers kind of thing. Now I do think Woody wants the glitz and glam and the everything that comes with having Rodgers here. And I think as long as Rodgers is healthy, I feel like everyone feels like their job's probably going to be safe because we have so much talent on the team. We won 7 games last year with Zach Wilson as our quarterback. I'm less concerned. And even the way Douglas operated throughout the offseason, Tyrod Taylor, 2-year contract, John Simpson, 2-year contract, Zuerlein, Morstead, 2-year contracts. Like, it seems like everything is aligning in that way. There are some other guys like Kinlaw's on a 1-year deal. Hassan Reddick's on a 1-year deal. Reed's going into the final year of his deal. Same with Conklin. They haven't restructured either of those guys. So there's a little bit of like this and that on either side. But I feel like the selection of Olu Fashanu told me that they are, okay drafting someone who may not start right away, but will definitely be needed throughout the season, as opposed to going to the nice shiny thing that was Bowers. It's kind of nice to see that they're operating from a spot of confidence moving forward, and they can still continue to build their plan. It's not just a panic move like, hey, we're going to trade all the assets and do whatever we can to win now. Because that was my fear, honestly, going into the offseason, was that we were just going to totally, go all out and start giving away assets and money in future years, and maybe it sacrifices the ability to bring back a Sauce or a Garrett or someone like that on the long term. And it hasn't gone that way. Douglas has still operated in such a way that we're, building for the future.
Yeah, listen, I mean, if it were up to some Jets fans, I think they would have preferred that. I was never one of them. I don't see like this terminology of quote unquote all in really kind of has a different meaning to some. Like, you can be all in and not kind of give up the future, And I think that Joe Douglas has been kind of responsible and fiscally responsible in that.
I don't know if my internet dropped or if your internet dropped, and I'm sitting right here.
So that he's not hamstringing.
Oh, yeah, there we go. Okay, we're back. Sorry, I think it was my internet. You froze, and then I was like, I'm just gonna sit here and we'll figure out how this goes. And then I heard your voice again. So if you could repeat the last maybe 5 seconds of whatever you said.
I think that Joe Douglas has done everything to position the team to be better now without risking or foregoing the future, especially financially. We're still in a good position. We're still we're still in a position where we have moves in our back pocket that he can do. He can do a restructure for DJ Reed. He can do a restructure for both Quinn and Quincy if he wants. And he doesn't have to. Hassan Reddick's another one. So I think there's enough flexibility to make a move or two if you need to now, without really kind of just hamstringing the future. And I think that's the best way to handle it, so on and so forth. So the team, I don't know if it's complete. And I don't know necessarily. I know some people want a safety, excuse me, and some people want another wide receiver in case Mike Williams isn't healthy. I don't know where we're gonna, outside of maybe some more depth on the interior of the offensive line. I don't know how much more we need to play with future money. Right? Let's hold off until the trade deadline and see what happens, or who stays healthy, or who gets jostled free, and then you can make a move like that.
Yeah, I feel like McGovern feels like a lock to come back at some point this offseason, that little bit of insurance he provides, unless they really don't like him. But it seems like they were fond of him the last few years, and Rodgers wanted him to be a starting center at one point, so bringing him in as a backup role on the vet minimum seems to make a lot of sense. As far as receiver, I would like to kind of hold pat on that and roll with the guys we got right now. I know obviously Williams isn't going to be super healthy to start the season, but I want this offense to run through Breece Hall anyway. So I'm hoping for a little bit more Breece Hall, and also a rebound year for Allen Lazard. And I think when you get later into the season, I think there's going to be a chance that Davante Adams does shake free from Las Vegas. I think depending on how Gardner Minshew does, I could see a situation where they're like, hey, you know what? If you want a shot to win the Super Bowl and the Jets are coming out like gangbusters, but either maybe Garrett's hobbled in some capacity, or maybe Lazard's not looking great, or Mike Williams is injured in and out of the lineup, and we need another receiver. I think that would be the route I would prefer them to go. And at that point, I don't mind them giving up like a higher. I don't even think it would have to be a higher 2025 pick, to be honest. But and then safety, I'm lukewarm on. I'd be fine with them bringing it in, but if I think I'd be more okay with holding on to the money we got now to make an in-season move that might have more impact than bringing in a summer safety when we don't really utilize the safeties a whole heck of a lot.
Yeah, well, I mean, June 1st is going to be the date, right?
Mm-hmm.
That some of these guys who are unsigned are going to sign because they won't require a comp pick of some sort. Or is that right? Am I saying that right? They won't.
No, I think the comp pick stuff's already gone through. I think this is just more so guys that had been released for salary cap purposes, or guys might get released post June 1st to free up additional salary cap from their current teams. I'm pretty sure the comp pick stuff was like a week or two after the draft. I think that's what Green Bean was saying. Maybe that's off though.
So I'm curious to see how, I mean, with the safety room that we have, okay, so Chuck Clark, you can assume, is going to lock into the majority of Jordan Whitehead's snaps as your traditional box, overhang safety, if you will. And then Tony Adams is gonna be fighting for that split or that single high free safety role with whoever else you bring in there. We still don't know what the JBC Bernard Converse is. We still don't know if he's viable. I know there's been talks about Isaiah Oliver possibly switching over to play some free safety as well. You just spent, Mr. Irrelevant pick on the kid Key from Alabama, who had some flashes. Again, all these guys are similar, right? They were all at some point in their collegiate career slot cornerbacks who transitioned to play some split or single high safety. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of defensive scheme Jeff Ulbrich kind of leans towards. If he goes more man across, where you might have a cover, more of a true center field cover one safety, that could open up the options for some of these other guys. I don't know if that's Tony Adams' best role. I like him. I like him in with his own responsibilities, so he can play everything moving, with his eyes moving forward, everything in front of him. I don't know how, and we haven't seen him in a true, straight up single high center field role all that often. I don't know how much of that ball hawk he is. God, Justin Simmons would be, but I just don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, I wonder if those guys are still going to get like a pretty good chunk of change. I know that we were kind of talking like, the reason they haven't signed is the money hasn't quite been there yet. Do teams free up a little more salary come June 1st, and maybe they wind up signing at that point?
Yeah, well, Buffalo frees up, I think, $12 million, right?
Yeah, maybe they make their way over there. They have Poyer's still up there, but didn't they get rid of?
No, they got rid of both Poyer and
it was both of them. Okay, I knew
they got rid of both the safeties. They re-signed the guy. Oh my God, what's his name? Taylor Rapp. They re-signed. That could be a landing spot. I know they also drafted Cole Bishop, who was one of my favorites in this draft.
A lot of Jeff fans like
Cole
him.
Bishop. Yeah. So interesting. Like the scheme is going to play. It's going to be a big part. Historically, the Jets, obviously, they're not the most man heavy, coverage all through and through. Certain situations, certain down distances. Sure, they went man. I know that there's a lot of talk about Sauce traveling with the number one receivers. And this is no shade or disrespect to Sauce, but I just don't think that we need to. Like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. There's nothing wrong with the defense. Keep playing your sides, man. It gives you a little bit more flexibility in stuff that you want to do if you want to, mix and match and play some of those and run some of those zone blitzes and stuff like that. I think if you flip flop Sauce and you kind of lose the option of some of those wrinkles that makes the Ulbrich defense really, really special. Like when he brings Quincy and CJ up the middle around the end, and he stunts with those guys, and somebody drops off. When you start flip flopping and having those cornerbacks trail wide receivers, you're just going to you're going to kind of throw that stuff off. I think those are nice little wrinkles. Plus, like I said, I'm a big fan of zone defense. I think we run it very well. There's no one that probably plays that true base quarters better than us. Maybe Seattle, but I'm a big fan of it. I don't know if defense has to be man to man all the time. Personally, I think when you're playing guys like Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen, I think having dropping 7, being able to get home with 4, and having 7 guys out there in the defense really plugs up some holes that they might ultimately be able to beat you. If somebody shakes loose in man coverage.
Wyland book comes in. It says, Ryan Dom, where does the Jets color rush jersey rank amongst our jerseys? Hopefully buried at the bottom of the barrel. I don't want to see our color rush jerseys ever again. I did not like them when I saw them initially. I would hope that any kind of retro uniform that would be used would be like our Rex Ryan era uniform at this point. I don't really love the Titans uniform. I don't love. Did you see the Giants uniform that they released?
Oh, they're disgusting, dude.
Oh,
they're
100-year anniversary.
Yeah, they were awful. They really were ugly.
What do you think of the color rush uniform for the Jets?
You know what? I didn't even see that there was a color rush uniform.
I don't think there's one current.
Is it like the New York Titans?
No, I think the color rush was from this has got to be 5 years ago now. I feel like where they did the Buffalo versus Jets, where it was all green and the Buffalo was all red. Yeah, it was super goofy.
That was the year where they did the dance Buffalo when they beat Buffalo at home and they did that dance with Jay-Z. Yeah. I like those uniforms. I did.
Dude, there was something about them. The color was an interesting pop. It was funny hearing all the colorblind people that were I couldn't tell which team was which because green and red look exactly the same to someone who's colorblind. It's amazing. I guess you don't really necessarily think about that when you're designing uniforms and stuff, but that's pretty funny. Let's see. What else we got going on in the chat? You guys talking about in here? Hugh says, I don't think he would have been replaced if Devontae signed a new deal, though. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm behind in the chat, so I don't know what they're talking about there.
Yeah, I'm trying to catch up a little bit. Things that are popping in here. Billy saying it isn't preseason yet. Yeah, what is
soon enough, Billy?
We got what? Week 1 is Commanders, then we're away at the Panthers, and then home for the Giants. Those are our 3. And Saturday the 10th of August, I would imagine the 3rd then, if my math is correct, would be the green and white scrimmage. I don't know if I've seen anything pop up about that, but I would imagine they're doing it this year because we don't have the Hall of Fame game like we did last year. That was the only reason that wasn't a thing. I love going to the green and white. Do you go to the green and white scrimmage usually?
Yeah, I go every year. This is my first year without my season tickets though in a long time.
Oh, where are you sitting now?
Well, I'll get tickets through my job. We have corporate seats. I
dope.
didn't. Yeah, and actually, it's funny because they're in the same section that I was spending thousands of dollars for my seats. But just with the kids and stuff like that, like Sundays or travel soccer and stuff like that, so I can't make all the games, especially. Thank God this year with all the Thursday games and Monday games and all that stuff. I hate those night games personally, but I will still go to the green and white scrimmage for sure.
Yeah, always a good time. Fun. But you got to hang out with the kids. Got to do all their fun stuff. Your little guys do soccer and baseball. Are those the 2 primary sports? You do any other ones?
My oldest is a soccer first, baseball second, and my youngest boy is wrestling first, baseball second. Yeah,
very cool.
They're 2 sport kids. Yeah,
very, very fun. Did you see our? I think last week was when we did it. Myself and Jeremy were talking about the content creator football team, and then Matt put out a tweet about kind of piggybacking off that conversation we had. You at center. I want to get your thoughts on what you thought about that.
Well, I was an all county center back in my day. So you hit the nail on the head. I was a center. Worked out fine.
It was pretty funny. Yeah, it was funny because Jeremy had said
Yeah.
something. I was like, yeah, I could see that. And honestly, dude, I did not realize you were as like big of a person until I saw you when we went to the hot dog place with Green Bean and Jeremy. I was like, wow, Dom's way big, not like in a bad way, but just like a larger individual than like I would have thought. I was like, wow, I could totally see him playing center. And then we had you bookend with Nick Shine and Jeremy. And I feel like you have to
Yes.
keep those knuckleheads like, pointed in the right
In
direction.
order. That's right. That's right. Yeah, I'd be the brains of the crew right there with those idiots.
Oh yeah, well, you don't have to work that hard. Sorry, Jeremy. Sorry, Nick.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, that was neat, man. That was funny.
Frankie comes in and says, "What's up, Frankie?" He goes, "Man coverage invites quarterback running too." Yeah, that's true. Like when you have corners that start turning their back to the quarterback, and all of a sudden lanes start, opening up. I do like zone. I feel like you have more of an opportunity to like jump passes when you're sitting in zone, where man, like it kind of puts sauce. It's almost like the same thing with Revis, right? Like if you wanted to beat the Jets defense, it was like, all right, just go away from Revis. Like don't throw towards your best player. It didn't always work that way because I guess Revis would always follow. I guess it's more so, I guess with the Jets, like if you want to get away from Sauce, you just throw to the opposite side of the field. The same thing that happened with 𝐒𝐻. It's like, oh, how do you beat the Raiders defense or Phillies defense? It was, oh, just throw the opposite side of the field because he's not going to travel. I think that's the only frustrating part for me. Like watching CeeDee Lamb just toast our defense last year when Sauce was like, could have been on him covering him. That's really the only time that I feel like I'd want to see some sort of switch.
Well, here's the thing. We still haven't really, even though the defense has been very good the past 2 years, I mean, what is it? I mean, I don't know statistically. I mean, I think we're top 5 both years, if not higher. We really haven't seen the fruits of what this defense could be. Like we haven't played with a lot of leads, so we haven't really just pinned back and let the pass rushers get at it. And those guys, up front, just do your thing. Like if you can get home with 4 regularly, why not drop 7 back? Why not? You know what I mean? Like I get it, man coverage, this, that you want your best cornerback to trail their best receiver, but is it really that necessary? Yeah, if you're a team that's dependent upon bringing a 5th rusher or a 6th rusher and surprising people with the blitz, but the Jets blitz so infrequently as a whole, as a unit. If we can get home with 4, I think that's why this defensive line this year with Aaron Rodgers at the helm, hopefully we're playing with some leads and you're going to really get to see the fruits of this labor. Like, listen, call it what you will. I know a lot of people are down, are really upset with the transition from Quentin Jefferson to 𝐒𝐮𝐬𝐂 Kinlaw, but I'm not really. I mean, listen, I mean, Quentin Jefferson was good last year, but even the year before Sheldon Rankins was good as well. I think whoever's going to be next to Quinnen Williams is going to really reap some of those benefits. So give me 𝐒𝐮𝐬𝐂 Kinlaw all day long. You have what you have on the edge rushers. I'm expecting another step from Jermaine Johnson. I'm expecting who I met the other day. Did I sent you that picture, right?
You did. You texted me. I was like, oh, yeah. Dude, do you want to share anything from that interaction at all? I won't say anything, but
no. Listen, he was he lives in town with me, and we were at a school function. I completely didn't expect to see him. And he was there supporting some family members. I was there supporting my kids. And we were just shooting the shit. And I talked to him a little bit. He took some pictures with my sons. They both had Marcus, my older one, had Jets gear, just happened to have it on because that's what we wear.
Absolutely.
So we were BSing about him, and I said, "Hey, listen, man," I said, once you're settled, once the dust comes before camp starts, I said, we got a show, man. We got to get you on. He said, book it. He said, we'll be in touch, man.
Dude, Jermaine Johnson was the one edge that year that I was like, I would take him at 4. If Sauce is gone at 4, I would take Jermaine at 4. And then we got Sauce at 4. I was like, ooh, we're definitely getting Jermaine at 10. And then he fell, and I was like, ah! But I'm a big Jermaine Johnson fan. I think he's an absolute
and I mean, you got him, you got Hassan Reddick. I'm really expecting another step, I don't think you're gonna miss Huff, sure. I mean, we all grew to love Huff. Sure. But I think you're going to have a lot of that, that really that get off, and the stuff at the quarterback is going to be picked up by Will McDonald.
Mhm.
I think this defensive line is going to have a real good chance to really feast this year, playing with leads thanks to Aaron
Mhm.
Rodgers, and just letting everyone just kind of sit back and reap the benefits, man. Like I don't know, man. I like our linebackers. I don't necessarily like our linebackers in man coverage. I don't want,
Mhm.
I don't want CJ Mosley and Quincy Williams chasing James Cook, all over the
No.
backfield and stuff like that. That's just not their strengths. That's not where they do best. So
No, I agree with you though, and especially on Kinlaw. Like as much as he's been a disappointment since he was drafted in the first round, he was healthy for the first time last year, and I feel like having him next to Quinn and in a contract year is the perfect mix of like, let me show what I could have been the entire time I've been in the league. Now I'm playing with an all-star defensive line. I think from a talent perspective, maybe there's an argument to say like, hey, could the Jets D line have taken a little bit of a step back? Um, I think maybe overall, like maybe if you had like a healthy Lawson and a Huff and a Jefferson and a JFM on this line with Aaron Rodgers doing what he was going to do this year, I think you have a strong case for it. But I think overall this year we will see a better production than we saw just last year. And we were pretty happy with what we got out of it last year. And not to mention, we're actually going to get first downs this year where you're going to have some rest for these defensive guys. So some of the rotation is going to get even better because you now have guys fresher than they were last year.
yeah, I think the sum of all parts, especially on the defensive front, I think we're probably, I don't think we've taken that big of a dip. Like I don't think the Al Woods to Leaky Fotu is all that big of a drastic. Again, remember these guys are probably playing what we probably won't expect to see Fotu for more than 15, 20 snaps at most a game, right?
Yeah.
He's going to affect the game. In early downs, probably he's a big body. He played, he two gapped for all his career in Arizona and did a very good job at it. He's not going to be asked to do that now. He's going to be given a little bit more like leeway to just be physical and get up. I don't know how much pass rush he's going to offer, but he's going to fill some of those roles, and then everything else is going to you need to see a step up from McDonald. You need to see the Hassan Reddick that we're familiar that has been playing the past couple of years, which there's no reason that we think that there should be much drop off there. And if you get another step up from Jermaine Johnson, I think we're going to be good. Michael Clemens is what he is. I don't know how much more you're going to get from him. But I think the sum of all parts with the addition of Hassan Reddick really kind of negates the loss. The addition of Hassan Reddick plus the expected improvement in both Will McDonald and Jermaine Johnson, I think kind of negates the loss of Huff and JFM.
I am in complete agreement with you.
Yeah.
Dom and Ryan, assuming we let Reed walk next year, is the future cornerback 2 on the Jets already, or is he a future draft or free agent acquisition? I tend to think we are going to go with a cornerback higher next year or in free agency. I do think Reed winds up walking. I think he's absolutely deserved a nice contract. I just don't think the Jets should be the team to pay him. Not that he doesn't deserve it at all. I really like him. Ideally, if you could retain him and align his contract with the 2 years of perceived Rodgers window here, I would do it. I think he's going to want to try and cash in on that contract because he hasn't really had that big time contract. He had a nice one with us, but we definitely got the better end of the value from that deal. Do you think we have cornerback 2 on this roster? Obviously, Eccles is gone at the end of this year. Michael Carter 2 up for a contract as well, along with Reed. So what are your thoughts at the cornerback position?
Well, I'm first off, I'll say this: I'm very much intrigued about Stiggers because I didn't watch a lot of his CFL film. I know that he's very very athletic. A lot of people that I trust in this scouting industry seem to like him a whole lot. I don't know if his upside is CB2 or not. That's still to be determined. I don't necessarily rule out bringing DJ Reed back. I think you're ultimately going to have to. What it's going to come down to is Michael Carter going to get paid top 3 nickel cornerbacks in the league? If he does, that probably means you're going to move on from DJ Reed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, I will say this: that this cornerback class in 2025 is probably one of the strongest ones that we've seen in quite a few years. There's upwards of 5 or 6 guys that that could work their way up into being, first round picks easy. Especially guys. There's 1 or 2 of them that could be in top 5. In Will Johnson, Travis Hunter. Will Johnson from Michigan, Travis Hunter from Colorado are probably 2 of the better cornerbacks that are coming out in quite a few years. Probably since Devin Witherspoon, Sauce Gardner. Those guys came out. So the class itself is very deep, and it's a position that the Jets aren't afraid to draft, or use high capital on. So there is that avenue. I don't know who else is upcoming free agents in the class, but I don't necessarily rule out Reed. I won't. I could see Reed being the contract that gets reworked or restructured if they do need to make a move in season. And that could tie him in for another year or so.
That would be awesome. I would love to keep him around. Whelan comes in and says, what's more realistic, Aaron Rodgers throwing for 4,000 or Brees having 2,000 all-purpose yards? I want to say Brees with the all-purpose 2,000 yards. I think he's definitely going to break that. With A-Rod, I think he should clear 4,000 yards, but at the same time, if we are winning and have leads and this defense is as gritty as it should be like the last 2 years, I think Brees is more likely to get the 2,000 all-purpose yards than A-Rod is to get the 4. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, how many 4,000-yard seasons does A-Rod have in his career?
Let's go over there. I feel like that's something I should know. So let's see. Yardage. He did not have it in 2022. He had it in 4 years. I think 2017 was the broken collarbone, so he did not have it there. That was 1,600 yards. So he's had it like 5 of the last 8 years, with the ones that he missed, broken thumb, torn Achilles, collarbone. Then before that, 3,800 yards, 4,300 yards. 2013, he had 2,500 yards. I mean, he's had 4,000 yards basically any year that he's been healthy. He had 3,900 yards one year. So like he's going to get close.
It's a good question. I'd probably lean with Brees in 2,000 all-purpose yards, just because I think he's really going to be the focal point of this offense. In a power running scheme that it seems that the Jets are kind of shifting their focus to. I could see a lot more of that. I could see a lot more 12 personnel. I could see a lot more Brees Hall really grinding, getting 20 to 25 touches a game easy. Especially with his, he's so adept out of the backfield as a receiver, so on and so forth. And that Aaron Rodgers loves to utilize those running backs out of the backfield. I mean, look what he did in Green Bay, right? Mm-hmm. Look what he did with all the running backs there in Green Bay. Aaron Jones, he made us. Was Aaron Jones? Who was the guy before him?
Before Aaron Jones? I mean, there was the guy that went down to. He was with the Saints last year, right? Was it the Lions the 2 years before? Really happy, smiley dude. The hell's his name?
Yes.
That's who I'm thinking of. He had like 10 touchdowns with Detroit the year before. Chad will let me know, I'm sure.
Yeah, not Eddie Lacy.
No, not
somebody in the chat said Eddie Lacy. I know who you're talking about.
It was before the Detroit
Jamal Williams.
time.
Yes, thank you,
there
UG Rec. Yeah. So. Listen, if I had to put money on one of them, I guess I would say Brees, 2,000 all-purpose yards. I don't think that's out of the equation with him. A year back, healthy on that knee, behind an improved offensive line with Aaron Rodgers at the helm, no heavy boxes, not as many heavy boxes that he's facing. I mean, Christ, he did, look what he did with,
1,600 yards last year? Is that what it was? Or just shy of it, maybe?
Yeah. With, as Buffalo Jet fan says, a pet rock playing quarterback.
Jet set for life brings up a good point that I unfortunately did not bring up at the beginning of this. Happy Memorial Day. Salute to my brothers and sisters in arms who paid the ultimate price for our freedom. Shout out 82nd Airborne Division. Ooh, yeah. Thank you so much for your service, my friend.
Yes,
for all you guys out there. Honestly, the greatest compliment that I've ever received on this channel was from active military or retired military that were away from home, and their only source of content for, Jets related stuff while they're overseas was, through YouTube and the internet. And I thought that was like a really cool compliment and highly humbling to get. So Jet Set for life. Thank you so much, and all you guys out there that are active military, we love you very much, and hope you know if you are deployed, hopefully you come home soon.
Mm-hmm.
Hugh Direction comes in, says, other than the year he was playing with a broken thumb, the last time he played a full season and didn't crack 4,000 yards was 2015. Yeah, that was what we were. I'm still catching up on chat stuff, so I'm sure he had that in before we started going through everything. Infrared says, I'm not scared of Miami until they beat an above 500 team consistently. We beat Philly, Pittsburgh, Houston, Denver, Buffalo, and got robbed against Kansas City. Jet up. Yeah, look, I am not concerned about Miami at all. I think they're a good team. I don't want to say that, but we're playing them so late in the season that they're contending with a few different hurdles. They're contending with the health of their team, first and foremost, and second, their ass has got to come to MetLife in January. So, like, I feel very confident about the final week of the season. I do think that us being underdogs for Miami, for Buffalo, for San Francisco, all 3 away games, I think that makes a lot of sense. I think I would have put the Jets as not favorites in those games as well, but I think the 14 of 17 games that we have as favorites do make a lot of sense. What are your thoughts on Miami and I guess maybe the favoritism of the Jets in almost every game except for those 3?
Well, I think that's interesting. I don't know how you get it's got to be Vegas is a weird place, man. I don't know how you put lines out on games where you don't know who's going to be playing where, right? I mean, Price last, we're saying 14, but where you're only 1 or 2 injuries away from being underdogs in 14 of those games, right?
Sure.
But listen, Miami,
everything as if everyone were a healthy roster. If all 32 teams maintained the health that they currently have at the level of players that are expected to play, I think it makes sense.
Miami is interesting. Very talented offensively. I'm their offensive line is going to need to really figure some stuff out because they got some holes there. Like Liam Eichenberg is a guy that never really impressed me. I think they downgraded in center. I mean, Connor Williams is still hurt. They lost Hunt. Mm-hmm. Teron Armstead has never, along the lines of Tyron Smith, has yet to stay healthy for a full season in the past few years. So they got some interesting things, but man, speed kills, and they got tons of it. Of it, and they got a great offensive mind there. The big litmus test is to see how their new defensive coordinator and their defense is going to gel. I mean, they're dealing with major injuries. They could be a team, I think.
Jalen Phillips, or maybe not lost, but coming back from injury, Jalen Phillips and
Chubb,
both.
Bradley
was
Chubb,
it Achilles or ACLs that they lost? I think Phillips was Achilles.
Phillips was an Achilles. Chubb was an ACL. And who else did they lose? They got rid of Xavier. They got rid of X-Man
Howard.
Back in the defensive backfield. Yeah, Xavier and Howard. They lost the defensive tackle, the big guy there. Even though I think I think Sealer's still there, and I think I think that Wilkins' move isn't going to be as bad as expected for them. But they're a team I think that's gonna kind of struggle coming out of the gate. And if they can, if the quarterback can stay healthy, and if they can start clicking on all cylinders, they might be firing, full steam ahead come January. Now, can they beat the cold? That team is, notorious for starting out hot and fizzling down the end. I don't think they can afford that this year. And the beginning of the season, I don't know their schedule, but I know that they're going to be battling some. A lot of new players, a lot of new coaches, new schemes, new adjustments. I think that they're in for not so much a rude awakening, but I don't think it's going to be the Miami of what we expected the past 2 years. I'll say this. I could easily see Buffalo maintaining the level of play that they have over the past couple of years easier than I can see Miami.
Yeah, so I think we're going to take the biggest leap forward. And then Buffalo, I think Buffalo lost. I don't know. They both lost so much talent, but I trust Josh Allen more than I think I trust Tua, and that might be where that kind of comes from. Joe Cav has a really good question here. Do you guys believe this defensive line this year will be good against the run? Speaking of Miami, they are lethal in the running game. Now, maybe that offensive line changes some of that, but the way they were able to slash, Mostert absolutely went off last year. Etienne's going to go, crazy. They got the new kid in there too. I think it's going to be interesting to see what the Jets have to contend with, because I don't know that we got better from a run defense game, but I think we will have more leads and might not have to contend as frequently with the run. I think that's more my take on this. How do you see this run defense kind of playing out for the Jets, especially with that JFM too?
Yeah, I think that's, that, but you get Reddick, who plays the run a lot better than, say, if you're counting, Huff out and Reddick in, I think that's a plus. That's check mark on the plus side in true run defense. Yeah, JFM is going to be a big one, and really, I think that's where I talked about earlier, like the second year leap of McDonald. McDonald, I think, is an underrated run defender. I know everyone talks about his strength and this and that. I think he's actually, in the limited snaps that he played. Obviously, we know what he can do affecting the passer. A lot of pressures and in very limited snaps. Got in the face of quarterback, but I think he can, hold that edge and plays the run very, very adequately. If Jermaine takes another step up, and then you get some, maybe one of these guys, maybe this Eric Watts or Braden McGregor or something like that can come in and help solidify some of the stuff on the edge that JFM would do on a solid basis. I don't necessarily think that it's a downward, that we've downgraded, I should say, against the run. I think, we'll probably be, top 5, top 10 DVOA in terms of run defense. And I think that will have a lot to do, like what you said. We're not going to be facing teams that have leads on us that are just going to grind it out. I think that seemed to be a big reason for, some of the lackluster run defense that we had. If we can limit the big plays, we can limit the explosives. Listen, the guys are getting older. I think 𝐃𝐨𝐦 Mosley is, he's long in the tooth, man. He's lost a step or two, right? Mm-hmm. But he's still very effective in what he does. So if the guys up front, can solidify and the loss of JFM isn't as substantial against the run, I think we're going to be just fine, man. I think we're going to be just fine.
Mike Saunders comes in with a very interesting question. My biggest issue with Joe Douglas is he's never proactive with contract negotiations. He was going to drop the ball with Michael Carter like he did with Huff. Yeah, the only time I felt like he's been proactive with contracts was with JFM, and I feel like everyone was kind of sour on that deal pretty quickly. Do you think we will retain Michael Carter II? Like, do you think between him and Reed, could you see a situation where both wind up leaving?
I mean, I guess anything's possible, but listen, I want to just poke back at Mike here in terms of dropping the ball with Huff. I don't think he dropped the ball with Huff. I just don't think, whether we agree with it or not, I just don't think the intention was ever to pay Huff long term. I think they got what they got from him. They were going to let him walk, knowing that you were going to get something back from him. I don't think he was in the long term plans. I don't think they were going to pay, $15, $16, $17, $20 million for a guy that really played less than 50% of snaps. That's what it comes down to. So I think that was a calculated risk, but a risk that, to me, I think was clear in the making. Yeah.
Infrared comes in and says, Brees all day, 2000. Brees with the new drop hip tackle rule is going to blow secondaries and checkdowns. Yeah, I wonder how teams adjust to this. Like, is it enough for teams to actually make an adjustment? I believe the stat I had seen at one point was 1% of all tackles in the NFL were of that hip drop variety that would that like could be flagged. So the chances of the Jets, or guys maybe changing the way they tackle, I don't know. I guess we'll find out in preseason, right? Like, if there's a lot of flags in preseason, we will know exactly how this team or how this league is going to call it. And if it is a prevalent thing that we see, then yeah, Brees, ripping off runs is going to be, really impressive.
Well, and listen, that maybe that's Joe Douglas zigging when everyone's zagging, right? He maybe the hip drop rule and that effect of hamstringing the defenses and their tackling abilities really calls for more of a power run scheme that they seem to be putting into play here with the new additions on the the offensive line and the rest of the running back stable in not necessarily in Izzy, but with Braylon Allen and Isaiah Davis, who are sheer, very very good power scheme, gap runners. They hit the hole physically and hit hard. They're not necessarily one cut and go guys like the Raheem Mosterts and the Devon A'Shanes of the world. They're not meant for that outside zone. These guys are meant for grinding it out, power running scheme. And you put that into a team with, good blocking tight ends like we have, call it what it is. Ruckert's a very, very effective blocker. Probably his strongest asset right now as an NFL player is what he can do, how he can affect the game in the blocking scheme. So I think you could see that tied in with maybe some of these new tackling, these limitations on the defense. Maybe Joe Douglas is ahead of the curve. And listen, the NFL cyclical, right? It went from Christ when we were young, in the '80s and the '90s, everything was power, 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 I formation, fullbacks, the whole nine. And then it became the passing offense and the Kurt Warner days and everything because of wide open, run and shoot and Warren Moon and all that stuff. And maybe they're just kind of simulating back and adjusting. Now you have defenses, you have more base nickel defenses, right? What's the easiest way to get at that? That's to get at that straightforward with guys moving straight forward and pounding the rock at them. So I'm all for it. I'm happy.
Rico comes in and says, in a zone scheme, having good vision to hit the right hole was one of Brees's strengths. What skill set will make Brees successful in a power scheme? So, Brees feels like he's. Yeah, I'll let you answer.
No. After you.
No, I was just gonna say I feel like Brees is one of those rare kind of running. I shouldn't even say rare, but he's that kind of running back that can do anything. You just get the ball in his hands. He's so fast. He's so powerful. He's got such good balance. He glides when he runs across the field. Like it's such a wild way to watch him evade tacklers. I think he'll be just fine following his blockers if it's like, just straight up follow Moses and run behind AVT. I think that's, there's no issues there. I think as far as like, if this is maybe asking more of like a power running, like if you need like gritty yards, like let's say you need 2 yards or something like that, I think that's probably where you start seeing Allen and Davis and you maybe save Brees a little bit more for those passing downs and whatnot. But as far as like a power scheme goes, how do you think Brees fits into that?
Yeah, I think you kind of hit it on the head. Like, I don't think that Brees Hall is necessarily scheme specific. I think, sure, hit the blend of his athleticism and vision really makes him effective in an outside zone scheme. And what we got to remember is just because the scheme is more power gap, double team or duo based, doesn't necessarily mean that there's going to be less holes. It just means that the holes are going to be more defined. That you're going to the play is running here, in the A gap between the center and the guard, and it's not going to be to the right side and let the form let everything kind of formulate, and you're going to be able to choose which gap you go. And really, that's what the outside zone does, right? It gives the runner a little bit more leeway to kind of call his shot, if you will, find out where his hole was and just hit it and go. He can still hit it and go, and he will. And now you're just going to have guys kind of giving him a more defined route, right? And it's exactly what you want to do against lighter boxes. You want to get bigger guys on smaller bodies. That's going to blow open holes, so on and so forth. I don't think it's going to affect Brees Hall one bit. I think he's kind of evades any more power or outside zone like limitations. I don't think he has any of those. Now, the other guys are also very good, I like Braylon Allen a lot. I like Isaiah Davis a lot. But they don't have, and all three of them, the one thing that they do have, all three of them, is the contact balance on all of them is phenomenal. They can take a hit, they can run through arm tackles. They're falling forward. They're always moving. They're rarely stopped on first contact and rarely stopped in the backfield. Right. That's the one thing that you want in a power scheme is you get a guy that doesn't have good contact balance or can't get through those arm tackles, something like that. It's gonna the whole scheme's gonna kind of wither away. And all three of these running backs, Brees included, show that they do that. They run with good pad level. They run with they run with good contact balance. They can make things happen. They're all nimble. Brees the most nimble. The other two guys aren't nearly as nimble. Brees has the breakaway speed. The other two guys have maybe a second gear. Brees has a third. 𝐒𝐮𝐬 has a fourth, for Christ's sake. So, I think that's the way this backfield is lining up. If they keep four active, I think you're going to have a good dose of a good plethora of all different types. That's really, really what it's going to say. It's Brees's backfield, but I think the other guys can all play a part. 𝐒𝐮𝐬 can he can be that home run hitter, and Isaiah Davis and Braylon Allen can offer something in pass pro as well as getting some of those grimy yards. Isaiah Davis has really underrated hands as well, so I think he can be a weapon out of the backfield. Braylon Allen, not so much. I don't know necessarily if it's he doesn't have, he's not a good receiver out of the backfield or wasn't given those opportunities in Wisconsin. But the other guys all have and all will. So
Frankie has a really interesting take here. Says, in order, the top three factors in running play success is light box, O-line block quality, and running back quality. It feels like that's certainly what we saw with Le'Veon Bell coming over from Pittsburgh. Does this sort of feel, make sense to you as well? Would you put it in that kind of order?
Absolutely. And think about it. Like when you had Zach Wilson there, I mean, how many times did you see 7 and 8 man boxes? And it's hard to block. It's damn near impossible to block 7 guys with 5 or 7 guys with 6 even. I mean, if you have a tight end in blocking, I mean, there was no holes to be found. So the lack of effective quarterback play, the lack of anyone that could even threaten to take the ball over the top, past 5 yards down from the line of scrimmage, just completely negated any luxury that the Jets had in maybe that outside or even the inside zone stuff would just be shut down because every hole was just filled with the defender. Now with Aaron Rodgers, you have to respect that. You have to respect his arm. You have to respect his ability to play and play action. You're not going to see that many stacked boxes against him, because if you do, then you're going to have Garrett and Mike Williams one-on-one, right? And Aaron Rodgers will find them if they're in one-on-one. They're in one-on-one coverage, man-to-man coverage on the outside. Aaron Rodgers will pick them apart. You can't do it. So I think that this is all stems back to just exactly like what Frankie says here: O-line block quality. When you're playing, your third and fourth and fifth string offensive guards and backup tackles and this, that, and the other thing, like the quality of the line play tied into having stacked boxes, it's a recipe for disaster. And that's exactly what last season was. So I think you're going to see some of this really, really drastically improve this year.
Tom, we blew through that hour.
Yeah.
Any thoughts?
Sure
Anything you got going on that you before we ended here?
No. Listen, I got some stuff coming out. I've been meeting and recording videos with different content creators from different NFL teams, doing a show series called State of the Franchise, where we're talking about the other 31 teams outside of New York Jets, and their off seasons and their drafts and their schemes and their changes and their coaching changes and all that stuff. So got some of those videos coming out on Project Prospect with Dom C. We'll also be starting a summer scouting series probably once July hits. I just started watching some film on some 25 guys just recently, just this week. Just started cutting it up and getting it ready.
Oh man, it gets me excited. We'll be here throughout the entirety of summer and even going into the season where we're going to be discussing little bits of draft knowledge and things like that, whether it be our own guys or guys coming up in the 2025 draft that we keep an eye on. You guys may say, hey, that's way too early to be thinking draft stuff. Well, that's what you got all these other shows here for. We got so many different things coming out on Talkin' Jets. And this one's going to be your little slice of draft knowledge and, obviously the trending stuff that's going on with the New York Jets. But boys and girls, thank you so much for hanging out with us on a lovely Memorial Day Monday here. Make sure you hit that like button on the way out. And we will be back here tomorrow, 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock for Talkin' Jets. And Dom Cini and I will be back here Monday, 9 o'clock at our newly regular scheduled time. Boys and girls, thank you so much for hanging out with us. This is Jets Talk, signing off. Jets!
Jets! Jets! Jets!